The university is different from a community college in several important ways. As a transfer student, you know that many things about attending the university are the same as you experienced at your community college. For example, at both types of schools you'll find classrooms, professors, textbooks, exams, and many other similarities. But there are also some very important differences between PSU and the community college you attended. Being able to recognize these differences, and even more importantly, figuring out some strategies for dealing with them, will be critical to your success as a student.
In this video, successful first-generation transfer students discuss issues related to an important difference between the university and their previous community colleges, as well as sharing some specific strategies for dealing with those issues.
As a transfer student, it's difficult to know how well you fit in at the university. One issue has to do with feeling intimidated and wondering if you belong.
I think as transfer students, when we first walk into PSU, the first thing we feel is this fear that we may not do good as the other people sitting in class. You see them answering questions, you see them, you see them very in their element, and you're just there thinking, who am I to be here with all these people? So I think one thing to realize is that everybody's there to learn. Everybody is there at the same level as you are. Everybody's taking the 299 class. So, you just have to go ahead and think that way.
Yeah, that's something I really struggled with. I felt very alienated from my fellow students, especially as a transfer student, and I'm a little bit older than a conventional student. I don't know if it's like this all across the board, but specifically in my chemistry course, a lot of my fellow students were like 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and getting to know some of my students in lab, they come from very supportive families, and I don't really have that background. So it was hard for me to feel like I could still be a part of the class and be successful.
Here are some tips on what to do. Be prepared to be able to participate in class by doing whatever extra work is necessary.
I think one of the most important things for me to actually feel that I have control over the material is to actually do the optional reading that it says in your syllabus. Even if you have to overburden yourself and spend an extra hour, if you do that, you feel a little bit more in control of your class, and you feel a little bit more confident when you go in. I'm not sure if I do this because English is not my first language, and I feel a little bit insecure about my academic achievements, but just doing the optional reading, even if I have to overburden myself, will actually make me feel that I can go ahead and do it.
Talk to the people around you.
I think it's very beneficial to just start talking to the people around you, make connections, get the contact information, and even make study groups.
The thing you'll come to understand is that you cannot relate to a lecture hall. You have to connect with your professor, connect with your lab partner, connect with someone in lecture so you can put a human face on it instead of being lost in a sea of strangers.
Another issue is that it's easy to get lost in a class because many classes are bigger.
So my first class was Chemistry 221 in Hoffman Hall. I don't know if you've seen Hoffman Hall, but it's huge. There were like 200, 250 people in the class. These enormous boards that the overhead projected onto, and this dais with the podium on it, and this booming audio system. It was like being 3 years old and you're being harangued by some distant authoritative figure. Very intimidating. And I came to university from community college, and the classes there were easy. I never felt like I had an issue I needed to address with a professor. So I didn't really know that that option was available to me. I was just very intimidated by the whole experience. It was pretty harsh.
It can be very intimidating in this kind of situation. You feel like there's such a distance between you and your professor. And then after class, a million people run up and start talking to the professor, and you really don't feel like you have a connection. And after, you just leave because you feel like there's no way that you can make, your voice isn't going to be heard. So it's very challenging to actually connect inside a big classroom.
Here are a couple of ideas. Sit in the front.
I am a big fan of sitting in the front. You're not going to miss anything or be distracted, and your professor's going to see you.
I think it's crucial that you sit in the front, which is funny that I say that because back in my junior college, I would sit in the way back. I just didn't care for it. But here I find that if you don't sit in the front, you might miss information. They give, especially in the numbers classes, because they will give you equations on the board. And if you don't jot them down, that'll mess you up. And also, teachers like it when you sit in the front. I've actually had advisors tell me, teachers remember your face. Sit in the front. It's the best thing you can do.
Talk to the professor one-on-one during office hours.
One nice solution is to utilize your professor's office hours. It's a great way to actually get some one-on-one time with your professor instead of being inside of that intimidating environment.
Connect with the teaching assistant.
It's pretty safe to assume that the bigger the class size, the more likely there'll be a graduate student helping. I've found that if I find the graduate student and become a buddy with them, I'm getting access to a valuable resource. Not only are they closer to your age sometimes, but they've also been here longer, so they have a better idea of how the professor wants their class structured, as well as how things go around campus.
One important piece of advice that you would give to a new transfer student.
I have come to realize that I do belong here. Even though I'm a little bit older than a conventional student, I'm a high school dropout and I messed around in community college for a while before transferring. There's an amazing conglomeration of crazy, successful people who are here. And, I look around and I see that they've made it work, and I realize that I do belong.